There's stuff out there that honestly shouldn't exist. Real clips, caught on camera, and no one can explain them, not even the FBI. Some are strange, some are terrifying, and some are just straight up disturbing. But the scariest part isn't just what's on camera, it's the horrifying stories behind them. Today we're looking at 7 of the most unsettling things ever recorded. Let's get into it. We'll start at the top of the iceberg. In a hidden corner of Lander County, Nevada, there's an old silver and gold mine called the McCoy Mine. It sits way up at 5,400 feet, pretty far from anything. This is where a YouTuber named Connor Kelly and his friends made a discovery that would haunt them. Connor, along with 3 others, went into this old mine. At first, everything seemed normal.
The exploration of this mine started off quite normal, with the group staying silent to avoid causing an accidental cave-in. However, after about a minute and a half of treading deeper into the mine, Connor noticed something strangely reflective on the path ahead.
They had their flashlights out, the beams cutting through the dark, dust-filled air of the cave. But then, as they went deeper, Connor's flashlight caught something unusual. A reflection. They probably thought it was a piece of rock, maybe some old mining equipment glinting. As they moved closer, the shapes became clearer, and a chill started to creep in. It wasn't just one reflection, but many, from a whole pile of something unexpected. What they found was a large pile of shoes. Not just any shoes, but mostly children's shoes.
So, do you see that reflection? They're trying to...
Check it out.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus, what the... It's a shoe.
Oh,
Okay, is that like a fossil?
All these small, worn-out shoes, stacked up in a dark, silent mine. It's a sight that would make anyone pause. And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, mixed in with the shoes were various bones. The shoes themselves seemed old, many showing styles popular in the 1980s. What was clear was that someone or something had carefully made a pile out of them. This wasn't just random trash. This was deliberate.
Shoe amongst many more in a massive pile with random bones scattered throughout.
How old would you say these shoes are, Dad?
That looks right there.
That's a bone right there.
Connor then pointed his light further into the cave, and there they could see more skeletal remains. These looked like they belonged to some kind of animal, possibly a coyote or a deer.
Found a bunch of bones, including a relatively intact spine.
The group was, understandably, growing more and more uneasy. They had walked into an abandoned mine expecting exploration, maybe some cool geological formations, but instead they found this unsettling scene. They decided to do the right thing and contacted the police about their bizarre discovery. But strangely, the police didn't seem to take it very seriously. They didn't appear to care much, leaving Connor and his friends with no answers. The video ended there, with no explanation, no resolution, just this deeply disturbing mystery. Connor Kelly posted 4 more videos after that one, but none of them ever mentioned the shoes or bones again. It's like the encounter just vanished, leaving everyone who watched the video to wonder what in the world was going on in the McCoy mine. One of the first ideas that pops into mind when you see something like this is something truly sinister. Could this mine have been a collection spot for a serial killer? The pile of shoes, especially children's shoes, combined with bones, certainly paints a horrifying picture. This theory is backed up by some comments on the video, with one person pointing out that in many missing persons cases, especially the famous missing 411 cases, shoes are often a major part of what's left behind or found. A deep dive into the missing 411 data shows that over 15% of those strange disappearances involve missing or absent shoes. But think about it for a moment. If you stumbled upon this scene, what would your first thought be? A sick prank? Or something much, much darker? It's been 6 years since Connor Kelly uploaded that video, and he seems to have completely disappeared from the internet. A more disturbing thought, however, is that this could be or was a dumping ground for abducted children, where their shoes were removed for some reason and left behind, possibly as grim trophies. There's a chilling historical example that makes this idea even more unsettling. In the early 1900s, in Walled Lake, Michigan, there was a terrible story of a cruel man who started murdering children in the area. After he got rid of their bodies, he would throw their tiny shoes into the branches of a specific tree. Eventually, the man was caught, and people found his trophy tree, adorned with the dangling shoes of dead children. It was a horrifying sight. Whether the McCoy mine is something similar to that dark history, or just a very elaborate and strange prank, we'll probably never know for sure. But while that mystery may be buried deep in the shadows of an old Nevada mine, think again. The next horror? It was hiding in the ceiling, just above someone's head, alive and watching. What would you do if you suspected someone was stealing from you? For most, the first thought might be a roommate, a friend, perhaps even a family member. You might set up a camera, hoping to catch them in the act, to prove your suspicions. But what if the person you captured on camera wasn't anyone you knew? What if they were a total stranger, secretly living within the very walls of your own home? For a New York City actor named Joe Cummings, this nightmare became a chilling reality. It was 2009, and Joe was living his life, but he kept noticing something strange. His food was going missing. He suspected his girlfriend at first, thinking she was the one secretly snacking on his groceries. So, to catch her in the act, he set up a hidden camera in his apartment. He wanted proof, simple as that. On November 7th, 2009, Joe uploaded a video to YouTube that would go on to be seen by millions. His YouTube profile still says he's not acting, that what you're about to see is real. He even put up detailed questions and answers about why this video is valid, why it's not a trick. But here's where things get weird. For almost a month, this video was nowhere. No blogs, no news outlets, nothing. Gothamist, a local news site, then covered the story, suspecting a marketing stunt since the blog author looked like the woman in the video. Naked Apartment's publicist denied it was a marketing ploy but couldn't explain how they got the video or identify the man. Yet they asked Gothamist for a backlink, which Gothamist called bull. Naked Apartments then tweeted and quickly deleted a claim that it was their viral video, found later in Google's records. Since then, this video hasn't been a major news story. No big news outlets have really picked it up as a real event. Yet this one video has been watched over 21 million times. It's not helping his career or Naked Apartments business the way a truly viral real video usually would. On the surface, the story seems too wild to be true. Many are quick to label it a fake, but the more you dig, the more unsettling the unanswered questions become. First, this kind of story has been told before, with some very similar details. In Japan, a man was confused about missing food and found a homeless woman living in his closet for an entire year. That story, unlike this one, was actually confirmed by Japanese police. Second, back in 2006, there was an experiment called Living with Strangers, where people secretly lived with strangers for almost a week and filmed it. This sounds a lot like Joe's claim that someone secretly lived in his home without him knowing. Beyond that, skeptics point to some strange things about the video itself, even if Joe claims it's real. When he's setting up the camera, if you look closely, you can actually see the woman moving around in the crawl space where she hides. If she was using his sink to pee, or for anything else, he would have smelled it when he got a midnight snack. That's not a smell you can just ignore in a small apartment. And yet, certain details feel almost too perfect, almost staged. The camera is perfectly aimed to show her entry point, not just the fridge where he thought she'd go. The homeless lady is always perfectly in the shot. At first, she's super quiet and careful, but then she starts slamming things around. In a tiny New York City apartment, he would have definitely heard that noise. It doesn't make sense. Why would she only come out at night when he's home, instead of when he's at work and the apartment is empty? And why would she risk watching TV and getting caught? Some viewers point out how perfectly the camera is aimed, right at her entry point, as if he already knew where to look. It seems too perfect, too controlled. But what if it wasn't? And then there's the bigger question. If this was a hoax, why? No one profited. No one claimed it. Naked Apartments denied everything. And perhaps most chillingly, the woman in the video has never been identified. That's the doubt that never sits right. Was this a clever fake, or was it a glimpse into a very real home invasion, one that its victim tried to share before the trail went cold? The intruder may have stayed quiet, but the next one didn't sneak. He broke in with rage. It's 4 in the morning. You're asleep at home with your family. Everything's quiet. Suddenly, a man starts screaming outside your front door, not yelling like he needs help, screaming like someone possessed. You don't know who he is, you don't know what he wants, but he's not leaving. And in that moment, just imagine the terror of hearing that from the other side of your door. That's exactly what happened to Anthony Lionheart Smith and his wife in their Omaha home. The footage continues showing him taking a step back, facing the door again and screaming, "Let's watch the terrifying footage."
Get out! Get out now! Get out now!
What happened next would shake Smith to his core and make him question everything he thought he knew about fear. Anthony Smith is a powerful light heavyweight fighter in the UFC, weighing in at 205 pounds. He's trained for years, faced tough opponents in the ring, and even holds a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You'd think someone with his skills would handle any intruder easily, but this wasn't a normal fight. This was personal, it was unexpected, and it was in his home, with his wife, his mother-in-law, and his 3 daughters all sleeping nearby. When his wife whispered that there was a man in the house, Smith heard the screaming himself. He quietly left the bedroom and saw a man, later identified as Luke Haberman, in their computer room. Haberman started walking towards Smith, seemingly trying to scare him. Smith immediately worried the man had a weapon. In his mind, people don't break into houses in the middle of the night for good reasons. Anthony Smith himself talks about his mindset in that terrifying moment.
Bad, so I'm expecting he has something, and I don't. So I just needed to get to him and honestly do as much damage as I could before I was going to succumb to whatever he had. And that was my plan. I was just going to do as much as I could, and hopefully my family could get out, or if I ended up dying or from a gunshot wound or whatever, at least he'd be hurt enough that they could deal with it. So that was my mindset going into that situation, and unfortunately, he wasn't armed.
His main goal became protecting his family. His wife, quick thinking, gathered their children and took them to a bedroom, locking the door behind them while calling the police. What happened next was a brutal, drawn-out struggle. Smith, a professional fighter, tried to take down Haberman, who weighed only about 170 pounds. But this intruder was different. Smith describes it as one of the toughest fights he's ever had, even against professional opponents. Haberman just kept coming, absorbing every punch, every knee, every elbow Smith threw. "No normal human is able to fight like that," Smith said, clearly shocked. "I'm by no means the baddest dude on the planet, but he's a regular Joe, and I had a hard time dealing with him. And he took everything that I gave him, every punch, every knee, every elbow. He took every single one of them and kept fighting me." At one point, Smith's mother-in-law, brave as can be, brought him a kitchen knife. Smith held it to Haberman, but even then, the man continued to struggle, showing no signs of giving up. After what felt like an eternity, more than 5 agonizing minutes, the police finally arrived. Officers were able to get Haberman under control. The computer room was covered in blood, and Haberman had cuts and swelling on his face. As he was being led away, Haberman surprisingly told Smith, "Hey man, I'm sorry." Haberman was charged with first-degree criminal trespass, a minor offense, and was released to the hospital, not even taken into full police custody at that moment, though he would have to appear in court later. It's a terrifying thought, and ask yourself, if this is what gets caught on camera, what happens when no one's watching? The mystery around Luke Haberman's actions only deepened. Why did he break into Smith's house? He didn't steal anything. It turned out that Haberman had been trying to get into other homes in the neighborhood too, and had even succeeded in entering another house before being scared away. He got into Smith's home through an open garage door. The bizarre part was how much trouble Smith, a skilled fighter, had subduing him. It was later found out that Luke Haberman was a former high school wrestler from Bishop Neumann, Nebraska. He had an impressive record of 32 wins out of 43 matches in his senior year, and was even on the varsity football team. This background explained why he was so tough and resilient during the fight. even against a professional mixed martial artist. He wasn't just a regular Joe, after all. That experience traumatized Anthony Smith in a way the UFC never had. He said it was a limit situation, and that he wasn't up to the moment. That night didn't just shake him, it broke something. His confidence, his composure, the sense of control that defines a fighter, all gone. What do you do when your greatest strength isn't enough? When the fight isn't in a ring with rules, but in your own hallway against a force you can't comprehend? The trauma never left him, and in early 2025, after losing his lifelong coach just weeks before his final fight, Smith stepped into the cage for the last time. He lost in the first round, and then, quietly, he left his gloves in the center of the octagon. The security footage of this encounter, if it exists, would surely be one of the most disturbing pieces of footage out there. And the scariest part, we still don't truly know what was going through Haberman's mind or why he chose that home on that night. But at least that case had a face, a name. The next story? It's about a young woman who vanished inside a hotel. And what was caught on camera might be the most unsettling footage of all. A name that chilled millions, a story that still leaves questions unanswered. On September 10th, 2017, the body of 19-year-old Kenneka Jenkins from Chicago, Illinois, was found inside a cold freezer at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel. She had been at a party there just the day before. The official report called her death an accident, suggesting alcohol and a medicine called topiramate, found in her system, made the cold worse, leading to hypothermia. While Rosemont police said their investigation wasn't fully closed, they didn't suspect foul play. But Kenneka's family and friends were deeply unhappy with how the police handled things from the start, eventually leading to a lawsuit that settled in 2023. So, what exactly happened? Kenneka left her West Side Chicago home around 11:30 p.m. on Friday, September 8th, 2017, heading to a private party in room 926 at the Crowne Plaza. At the party, someone noticed she was swaying. While some saw her drinking cognac, no one saw her use drugs. Another friend felt Kenneka wasn't acting like her usual self, dancing briefly before sitting down, looking sad. Her sister spoke to her on the phone for the very last time at 1:30 a.m. Then, at 3:24 a.m., camera footage shows Kenneka leaving an elevator on a lower floor, stumbling and clearly very drunk. You can see her, disoriented, struggling across the hallway, bumping into the wall, and barely catching herself on the staircase before turning the other way. The very last time any camera saw Kenneka alive was at 3:32 a.m. Take a look at the footage of her walking into the kitchen, where she literally looks like a zombie. She went around a corner, heading towards the freezer. The actual freezer door was out of the camera's view. About an hour later, Kenneka's friends called her mom, Teresa Martin, from Kenneka's car. They couldn't find Kenneka and had left the party, strangely, with Kenneka's phone. Her mom rushed to the hotel around 5:30 a.m. Saturday, but the hotel wouldn't show her footage until Kenneka was officially reported missing. So at 7:14 a.m., her mom called the Rosemont Public Safety Department, who advised her to wait a few more hours, but Kenneka didn't show up. So at 12:46 p.m., her older sister, Leonore Harris, filed a missing persons report. Police then formally notified the hotel at 1:15 p.m. Kenneka's mom and sister returned to the hotel around 6 p.m. knocking on guest doors, desperate. A hotel employee eventually called 911 to complain about them. Police first checked footage of people entering and leaving the hotel, finding nothing. Finally, at 10 p.m., police saw the footage of Kenika stumbling through the hotel, but where she went remained a mystery until an employee found her in the hotel's freezer at 12:25 a.m. on Sunday. She was declared dead at 12:48 a.m. She was lying on her side, face down, with one shoe off. There were no major injuries, just a small cut on her foot. The freezer itself was on and working. It was described as a big walk-in freezer inside a walk-in cooler, part of a kitchen that wasn't being used. The lights were apparently off in both the cooler and the freezer when she went in. The temperature inside the freezer was 34 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 1 degree Celsius, about 2 hours after the doors were left open. People wondered why the freezer was even on, though it was said that it was rented out to a restaurant that used space in the hotel. On October 6, 2017, the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office officially ruled Kenika's death an accident. No illegal drugs were found, but her blood alcohol level was high at 0.112. Traces of topiramate, a medicine she wasn't prescribed, were also present. This combination can intensify effects and speed up hypothermia. The report confirmed hypothermia due to stomach markings, and some brain swelling was noted, but not as the cause of death. The Rosemont Police Department said on the same day that they didn't think there was any foul play, but their investigation wasn't finished. The police report also said that the credit card used for the hotel room was fake and linked to a gang in Chicago. Even though there were many rumors about foul play, officials said that none of the evidence supported those claims. But Kenika's friends' stories about what happened after the party were not always the same. After she went missing, one friend texted another saying Kenika was drunk and missing. The reply was, "Find Kenika, and I can't believe you lost her." They told Kenika's mom that Kenika had gone downstairs with some people, but they left her alone to go get a cell phone from one of the hotel rooms. In 2018, the family's lawyer filed a $50 million lawsuit against the hotel and others. He presented a photo of a freezer door with an outside lock button, hinting at an accidental lockout. However, the specific freezer Kenika was found in reportedly had a latch, but no lock, with an inside handle that would allow someone to exit. The lawsuit was settled in December 2023 for $10 million. Court documents indicated that those being sued were found to be careless in not properly securing the kitchen area, allowing an unauthorized party, and not checking security footage thoroughly after Kenika was reported missing. But money can't buy answers. The footage shows her stumbling, disoriented. But does it show the whole story? What do you think happened in those moments the camera couldn't see? Some think she got lost. Others think she was silenced. But the next woman didn't just lose her life, she was hunted, and the killer may still be out there, caught on camera. On a stormy morning, April 18, 2016, a woman named Terry Leanne, Missy Bevers, a fitness instructor, was found dead inside the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. Her murder grabbed a lot of attention, especially after the Midlothian police put out a strange video. This video, recorded by the church's cameras shortly before Missy was killed, showed an unknown person walking through the church halls. This person was dressed in what looked like police tactical gear, smashing glass and opening doors. Police believe this person in the video is the killer. Since the investigation started, not many new clues have come out, but many ideas and tips have been given. Missy Bevers was born in Graham, Texas, on August 9, 1970. She married Brandon Bevers in 1998, and they had 3 daughters. They lived in Red Oak. Missy worked as a fitness instructor running Camp Gladiator boot camps. Her classes were often held outside in the church's parking lot, but if the weather was bad, they moved inside the church building. The night before she was killed, Missy told her students that the next morning's class would be inside the church because of a big thunderstorm happening in Midlothian. She was last seen on video, though this video hasn't been shown to the public, entering the church at 4:18 a.m., getting ready for her class that was supposed to start at 5 a.m. Just after 5 a.m., one of Missy's students walked into the church and found Missy's body. Emergency services were called, and the police started investigating the crime scene right away. Missy was confirmed dead soon after the police got there. Missy was found with several sharp wounds to her head and chest. Police papers claimed these wounds matched tools the suspect was carrying throughout the building. While the police never said for sure what the murder weapon was, a hammer was found near Missy's body, along with other tools. The police quickly checked the church's cameras. The cameras outside the church weren't working that day, but the ones inside were, and they got the video footage. The video, taken around 4 a.m., shows the suspect, whose gender and identity are still unknown, walking through the church's hallways. They are seen occasionally smashing glass and trying to open doors. The suspect was wearing what looked like a full SWAT police outfit and tactical gear from head to toe, including a vest, a black helmet, and black gloves. Missy was in the middle of moving her exercise gear from her truck into the church when it's thought she ran into the suspect inside. The police haven't shown the video that reportedly shows Missy walking in the church hallways before she was killed, and they haven't said exactly where Missy and the suspect met. It's believed that the suspect killed Missy in a violent fight inside the church. At first, investigators thought the suspect was a man, but later the police changed their minds, saying that even though the way the suspect walked looked feminine, they couldn't be sure of the suspect's gender. Investigators also noticed the suspect's strange way of walking. In the video, the suspect seems to walk slowly and having trouble moving their right foot or leg. The Midlothian police said this unique walk might have been because of a temporary problem. In 2021, the FBI even asked an expert doctor, Michael Nirenberg, who studies feet and walking, to look at the suspect's walk. He said that the person's walk was affected by the heavy gear and weapons, and that you can't tell someone's gender just from how they walk. He said the suspect's gender couldn't be figured out from their walk alone. Initially, police thought the break-in might have been a burglary, but they couldn't find anything missing inside the church. Missy had left several things behind, including her purse and iPad. News sources later said that police now believe Missy was specifically targeted, and that the suspect had planned to make the crime look like a burglary that went wrong. One police warrant claimed the suspect had a smartphone and might have used it to track Missy's schedule and even record her murder. Other police warrants said that Missy had received creepy and strange messages from an unknown man on LinkedIn. Police also think Missy might have talked with her killer right before the crime. Law enforcement found a person of interest who had talked to Missy on LinkedIn in the months before she died, but that person said their conversations were just friendly and harmless. Missy's family members were questioned. The alibis of Brandon, Missy's husband, and Randy, Missy's father-in-law, were checked and confirmed. Brandon was fishing in Mississippi, and Randy was traveling in California. Suspicions were raised when a police paper reported that Randy, 4 days after the murder, took a blood-stained shirt to a dry cleaner. Randy later said the blood was from 2 dogs fighting. Midlothian police tested the shirt and confirmed it was dog blood, not human. In May 2016, the Midlothian police released a picture of what they thought was a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima car. This car was seen driving around early that morning in the parking lot of SWFA Outdoors, a sports store near Creekside Church. The car, which police think has an oval bumper sticker, pulled into the SWFA Outdoors parking lot around 2 a.m. and left a few minutes later. The police wanted to talk to the unknown owner of this car. Assistant Chief Kevin Johnson said the owner wasn't necessarily a suspect, but they wanted the person to come forward in case they could help the investigation. Later, in December 2016, SWFA Outdoors released the full video from their parking lot. The video shows the car driving into the parking lot the same morning as the murder, and the driver acts strangely. The driver circles the parking lot, flashes the car's headlights randomly, and parks in a quiet area for a few minutes before leaving and driving onto US Route 287. As of June 2023, The police still haven't found the driver, and they haven't said for sure if this car is connected to Missy's killing. At first, a reward of $10,000 was offered for information, then it doubled to $20,000, and later went up to $50,000. As of 2021, there's a $150,000 reward for any information that could help catch the suspect. According to Midlothian police, they still get tips about the case every day. As of 2022, a podcast called True Crime Broads talks about the case, and it was started to keep people talking about it. The podcast creators also have a billboard advertising the $150,000 reward for any help in solving the murder. And perhaps what haunts us most is that we still don't know the truth. That was the last time anyone saw Missy Bevers alive in her church. The rest is silence and an unanswered question. But the next mystery may be even more haunting because it involves a woman whose final moments were caught on tape and whose death still makes no sense at all. Elisa Lam was the daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong and a student at the University of British Columbia. In 2010, Elisa started a blog where she posted about fashion and her life, including her struggle with mental illness. She often used the quote, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life," which became a sort of motto for her blog. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression and was taking several medications for her mental health. Her family said Elisa had no history of wanting to harm herself, but she did have a history of not taking her bipolar medications, which sometimes led to hallucinations and at least one hospitalization. For her trip to California, Elisa traveled alone by train and bus. On January 26th, she got to Los Angeles, and 2 days later, checked into the Cecil Hotel, also known as the Stay on Main, near Skid Row. Elisa was first in a shared room, but her roommates complained about her certain odd behavior, including leaving notes saying, "Go home" and "Go away." After 2 days, she was moved to her own room. A few days before she disappeared, Elisa was escorted out of a live TV show taping in Burbank for causing problems. Elisa talked to her parents in British Columbia every day while traveling, until January 31st, 2013, the day she was supposed to check out and go to Santa Cruz. Her parents didn't hear from her and called the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, right away. Hotel staff saw Elisa that day by herself. Outside the hotel, a bookstore manager, Katie Orphan, was the only person who remembered seeing her, describing Elisa as outgoing, very lively, very friendly. Police searched the hotel as much as legally possible, including Elisa's room and the rooftop with dogs, but found no trace of her. Sergeant Rudy Lopez later said, "We didn't search every room. We could only do that if we had probable cause that a crime had happened." On February 6th, a week after Elisa was last seen, the LAPD put up flyers, bringing the case to public attention. On February 13th, after another week with no sign of Elisa, the LAPD released a surveillance video from one of the Cecil Hotel's elevators, taken on January 31st. For about 2.5 minutes, Elisa, alone, makes strange movements and gestures. She seems to push every button on the elevator panel, then looks out into the hallway. At one point, she steps out of the elevator while its doors stay open. When the doors don't close after she gets back in, she walks out again acting weird. This video created huge interest globally due to Elisa's very odd behavior, going viral on sites like Youku, where it got 3 million views and 40,000 comments in just 10 days. Many found it deeply unsettling. Many ideas popped up to explain her actions. Some thought Elisa was trying to make the elevator move to escape from someone, or that she might be on drugs, though none were found in her body. With her bipolar diagnosis, a psychotic episode was also suggested. When you watch the tape, what do you see? A game of hide and seek, a young woman terrified of a pursuer just out of frame, or a tragic breakdown captured for the world to analyze forever. Some viewers also argued the video had been changed, pointing to a hard-to-see timestamp, slowed down parts, and almost a minute of cut footage, possibly to hide another person's identity. It also seemed Elisa spoke at certain points, but her mouth appeared extra pixelated to hide what she was saying, suggesting editing possibly by a hotel employee. During the search, hotel guests complained about low water pressure, with some saying their water was black and tasted strange. On the morning of February 19th, Santiago Lopez, a hotel maintenance worker, found Elisa's body in one of 4 huge water tanks on the roof. Through an open hatch, he saw Elisa lying face up in the water. The tank had to be drained and cut open because its opening was too small to get her body out. On February 21st, the Los Angeles coroner's office ruled Elisa's death an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder being a major factor. The full coroner's report in June said Elisa's body was found unclothed, with clothing similar to what she wore in the elevator video floating in the water. Her watch and room key were also found. Her body was a bit decomposed and swollen, mostly greenish, with some strange patterns on her stomach and peeling skin. There were no signs of physical harm or assault. Drug tests showed traces of her prescription medication, plus common over-the-counter drugs. A very tiny amount of alcohol was found, but no other recreational drugs. However, investigators and experts noted that the level of her prescription drugs suggested she wasn't taking enough or had stopped, possibly leading to a psychotic episode. The autopsy report was questioned due to missing information, such as assault test results or fingernail scrapings, and unusual blood pooling that some thought indicated abuse, though a doctor said it could be from bloating. The doctors who did the autopsy weren't fully certain about their accidental death conclusion. After her Elisa's Tumblr blog was updated, likely due to an automatic posting feature. Her phone was not found with her body or in her hotel room. It's unknown if the blog updates were due to a stolen phone, a hacked account, or the automatic posting, or if they had anything to do with her death. In September 2013, Elisa's parents filed a lawsuit, claiming the hotel didn't do enough to inspect and seek out hazards. The hotel argued they couldn't have known Elisa would go into the tanks. In 2015, the lawsuit was dismissed. We have the footage, we know a body was found, but the official story just doesn't connect the dots. It leaves a void where the truth should be. If a video of someone's confusing final moments is disturbing, what about footage of a man who seems to run from nothing at all, vanishing into thin air? On the 8th of July 2014, at Varna Airport in Bulgaria, a 28-year-old German tourist named Lars Mittank was about to board a flight home. He had his bags, his passport, and his ticket. He was just moments away from safety. But he would never get on that plane. Instead, airport security cameras captured footage so bizarre, so terrifying, that it would turn Lars into one of the most famous missing persons on the internet. The video shows him suddenly sprinting out of the airport terminal as if running for his life. He abandons all of his luggage, his wallet, his phone, and his passport. He crosses the car park at full speed, climbs a 2-meter-high barbed wire fence, and disappears into a vast field of sunflowers bordering a dense forest. He has never been seen again. That grainy footage is the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank on Earth, and it's the heart of a mystery that only gets stranger the deeper you go. Just a week earlier, none of this seemed possible. Lars was on his first ever trip outside of Germany, a holiday with 5 of his friends at Golden Sands, a popular seaside resort on the Black Sea. It was a normal trip for a group of young men. They relaxed on the beach, swam, played football, and went to clubs at night. His friends said he was relaxed and in a good mood. But on the day before they were all scheduled to fly home, something happened. Lars got into a brief argument with a group of other German men at a McDonald's. It was about football. Lars was a fan of one team. They were fans of a rival. The argument ended with Lars getting punched in the head, an injury that ruptured his eardrum. This single punch was the catalyst for everything that followed. A doctor advised Lars that the change in cabin pressure on an airplane could seriously damage his ear, so he shouldn't fly. His friends wanted to stay with him, but Lars insisted he was fine and told them to go home as planned. He would stay behind, find a cheap hotel for a night or two, and catch a later flight. His friends left, and for the first time, Lars was completely alone in a foreign country. He checked into the Hotel Color, a cheap place near the airport, and that's when the terror began. That night, his behavior became incredibly erratic. He called his mother Sandra back in Germany. In a frantic whisper, he told her that 4 men were trying to kill or rob him, and that she needed to cancel his credit cards immediately. Hotel security cameras captured him pacing anxiously up and down the hallways, repeatedly looking out windows, and at one point hiding inside an empty elevator. He even left the hotel for an hour in the middle of the night, and no one knows where he went or what he did. The next morning, he called his mother again, telling her that the people pursuing him were getting closer. He hailed a taxi and went straight to Varna Airport, hoping to finally get home. He texted his mother that he had made it to the terminal. Following her advice, he went to see the airport doctor to get cleared to fly. The doctor, Kosta Kostov, later said that Lars was extremely nervous and erratic. The doctor examined him and said he was fine to fly home, but the consultation was interrupted when a construction worker entered the office. The sight of this man seemed to be the final trigger. Lars began to tremble, yelling, "I don't want to die here, I have to get out of here." And that's when he ran. What followed is the footage that has been viewed millions of times. He flees the doctor's office, leaving behind every single thing he owns. The camera outside the terminal shows him sprinting with a look of pure panic. He doesn't slow down. He reaches the perimeter fence and with a burst of adrenaline, scrambles over the barbed wire at the top. He drops down into a field of sunflowers and disappears into the woods beyond. So what happened? The most common theory is that he suffered a psychotic episode. The antibiotic he was prescribed for his ear infection, Kefprozil, has a rare side effect that can induce hallucinations and extreme paranoia. This would explain his phone calls to his mother and his behavior at the hotel. However, the airport doctor claimed Lars never even filled the prescription, and indeed the medication was found untouched in the bag he left behind. Another theory is that the blow to the head during the fight caused some kind of brain injury that led to his paranoia. Or was the threat real? Did the men from the football argument actually hire people to track him down? It seems unlikely, but his fear was so genuine, so palpable, that you can't completely rule it out. The footage forces you to choose. Was he running from a real threat, or from a monster inside his own mind? And which possibility is more frightening? We simply don't know. A massive search of the forest and surrounding area turned up nothing. Private investigators found no trace of him. In the years since, there have been unconfirmed sightings all over the world, but none have ever been Lars. All that remains is that chilling footage. A few seconds of a young man, in absolute terror, running from a threat that may or may not have been real, and vanishing forever. But sometimes the most terrifying footage isn't of a ghost or a monster, but of a human being whose mind has gone to a place so dark, it's unrecognizable. Anatoly Moskvin, a 52-year-old historian, was once considered a genius. He knew over 13 languages and wrote many scientific papers. To his family and friends, he seemed like a quiet, regular guy. But beneath this calm surface was a deep and strange obsession with the afterlife, which his later writings would help explain. Born in 1966 in Russia, Anatoly was smart but struggled to make friends. His parents put his awkwardness down to his intelligence. However, his childhood was far from normal. He once came home from 3rd grade covered in bruises, claiming he had been It's not clear if he ever told his parents. Even stranger, his dark fascination with the dead began when he was only 13. In 2011, Moskvin wrote about a bizarre event from his childhood. He claimed that a group of men in black suits stopped him on his way home from school and dragged him to the funeral of 11-year-old Natasha Petrova. They forced him to kiss her corpse repeatedly. He also claimed the girl's mother put a wedding ring on his finger and one on her dead daughter's hand, calling it his strange marriage. This event ignited his obsession with the undead. He began having dreams about Natasha, who supposedly tried to teach him black magic. He said she stopped appearing only after he performed a black magic ritual using a classmate's tooth. This act, according to Moskvin, sparked his interest in black magic and the occult. Later, Moskvin studied Celtic beliefs, which often mix life and death. He also joined the Society of the Luciferians, focusing on magic and personal anarchy. These interests led him to perform rituals on dead animals and to vow celibacy. After college, he gained vast knowledge of local cemeteries. From 2005 to 2007, he claimed to have visited over 752 cemeteries in his hometown for research, working with historian Oleg Ryabov to document them for a book. But Moskvin had other, far more sinister plans. In 2009, people in the area started noticing that graves were being dug up or ruined. This led to a 2-year investigation that didn't go anywhere. In 2011, after an anti-Muslim attack at a Moscow airport, authorities heard about vandalized Muslim graves. When they investigated, they found Moskvin trying to paint over some gravestones. He was arrested for vandalism. Police then searched his apartment, expecting to find anti-Muslim materials. What they found instead left them stunned. The raid, which took place in an apartment that he actually shared with his parents, ended up leading to the discovery of 29 life-sized dolls. The figures, heavily representing antique dolls, wore various types of clothing. Apparently, Moskvin dressed all of these up in makeup, even going as far as to place buttons or various circular objects in their eye sockets to give them a more lifelike appearance.
Как правило. Вечерние съемки.
The thing is, though, these weren't simply dolls. Rather, these were all created with the dead corpses of girls ranging in age from 3 to just 12 years old.
Вон, видишь?
Ты мне что тут сверху показываешь? Ну что, разберемся?
Да, из трупов кукол.
То есть глину там, да?
Да.
Там все девочки, да?
Ну, как правило. Вечерние съемки. Ну, где ноги? Да.
Even more disturbing, when police began to move the bodies in this investigation, most of them would emit some sort of jingle, and it was later revealed that Moskvin stuffed each of the rib cages with music boxes so they could emit some sort of audible feedback when he interacted with them. Moskvin also allegedly kept track of their birthdays in his room, and celebrated them when the time came. Police also found photos and plaques from gravestones, doll-making guides, and maps of cemeteries in his apartment. Many of the dolls wore the clothes they were buried in. Moskvin admitted to wrapping the corpses' limbs in rags and nylon tights for structure, and putting buttons in their eye sockets so they could watch cartoons with him. He claimed he loved most of them but disliked a few, which he left in the garage. He said he did all this out of loneliness. His parents said they saw the dolls but never suspected they were real bodies, thinking it was just his hobby, despite a constant foul smell in the apartment. One of the corpses had been with him for 9 years. Moskvin was charged with severe crimes. In late 2011, the media called him Lord of the Mummies and the Puppeteer. He confessed to 44 counts of grave abuse and was sent to a psychiatric ward where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and has been held ever since. His mother claimed he was beaten by guards and given up to 15 pills a day, leaving him in a catatonic state. A human rights lawyer, Violeta Volkova, tried to get him moved for re-examination, leading to a second hearing. As of September 2018, he was given the chance to continue psychiatric treatment at home, essentially allowing him to walk free. This decision caused a lot of anger and controversy. Natalia Chardamova, one of the victim's mothers, discovered she had been visiting an empty coffin for years. Her daughter Olga's body was one of the 29 girls Moskvin dug up. Olga had been murdered at age 10. The thought that her daughter was taken twice infuriated her, and she strongly opposed his release. He needs to be kept under surveillance, This creature brought fear, terror, and panic into my life, she said. Anatoly Mostvin is expected to be released from the psychiatric ward soon. While he might walk free, his crimes will remain some of the darkest and strangest in history. The pain these parents are going through is unimaginable, but if you think that's as dark as humanity gets, think again. Sometimes the most horrifying footage isn't what it shows, it's what it doesn't. Which case felt real to you? Which one shouldn't be forgotten? Let us know and subscribe, because maybe the real horror isn't in the footage we've seen. It's in the tapes no one was ever supposed to watch.